What if your brain is not a computer? What if consciousness is not software running on biological hardware? What if the entire framework that neuroscience and artificial intelligence have been built on for the last 50 years is missing something so fundamental that no amount of computing power will ever bridge the gap? One Nobel Prize-winning physicist believed exactly that. And the reason he believed it traces back to a mathematical proof from 1931 that most people have never heard of. A proof that revealed a permanent crack in the foundations of logic itself. Roger Penrose was not the kind of scientist who made wild claims. His career was built on mathematical rigor of the highest order. His work on the geometry of spacetime, on the singularity theorems that describe the hearts of black holes, on the mathematical structures underlying the laws of physics, all of it was precise, careful, and deeply respected. He was the kind of thinker whose ideas, even when they were controversial, could not be easily dismissed. So when he published a book in 1989 called The Emperor's New Mind, and argued that human consciousness is fundamentally non-computational, the scientific community paid attention, even as many of them reached for their red pens. Penrose's argument rested on a discovery made by the logician Kurt Gödel in 1931. Gödel's incompleteness theorems are among the most profound results in the history of mathematics. What Gödel proved, with devastating precision, is that within any sufficiently complex formal system, any system of rules and logic powerful enough to describe basic arithmetic, there are statements that are true, but that cannot be proven within the system itself. No matter how many rules you add, no matter how you expand the system, there will always be truths that lie beyond its reach. Mathematics, at its deepest level, is permanently incomplete. Penrose seized on this. He argued that human mathematicians can sometimes see that these unprovable statements are true. Not through mechanical derivation, not by following an algorithm step by step, but through a flash of insight, through intuition, through something that feels like direct understanding. If that is the case, then human minds are doing something that no formal system, no algorithm, no computer, no matter how powerful, can replicate. The mind reaches truths that computation cannot. And if the mind is not a computer, then no computer, no matter how sophisticated, will ever be truly conscious. Consciousness, Penrose concluded, is not computational. It is something else entirely. Something rooted in the deepest laws of physics. Something connected to the unresolved mysteries of quantum mechanics. But what exactly? Penrose had identified the problem with extraordinary clarity, but he needed a mechanism. He needed to explain where in the physical world this non-computational process was actually happening. The answer came from an unexpected direction. On the other side of the world, an anesthesiologist named Stuart Hameroff had been spending years staring at the insides of cells, and what he saw there bothered him deeply. Hameroff had been studying microtubules, protein structures that form the internal skeleton of every cell in your body. They are part of what holds cells in shape, allows them to divide, move, and organize themselves. Under an electron microscope, they look like tiny, hollow tubes, and they are everywhere in neurons, far more abundant than in most other cell types. In fact, a single neuron can contain millions of tubulin proteins organized into these elegant cylindrical lattices. What struck Hameroff was how precisely organized they were. The protein units that make up microtubules, called tubulin dimers, are arranged in a spiral lattice with mathematical regularity. Each tubulin dimer can exist in two distinct physical configurations, two states that Hameroff realized could be described in the language of quantum mechanics as a quantum superposition. This looked to Hameroff like a computing system. Not a classical computing system, not like a silicon chip, but a quantum computing system. A system capable of processing information in superposition, exploring many possible states simultaneously before collapsing to a single outcome. A quantum computer inside every neuron in your brain. Hameroff contacted Penrose. They began talking. And in 1994, they published together a theory that would become the most controversial proposal in the history of consciousness science. They called it Orchestrated Objective Reduction, or OR. The theory begins with a question Penrose had been wrestling with for years. What exactly causes the wave function to collapse? The standard answer, the Copenhagen interpretation, says that observation collapses it. But that answer is deeply unsatisfying because it raises an immediate follow-up question. What counts as an observation? Does a camera count? Does a single photon bouncing off another particle count? Does it require a human being? The Copenhagen interpretation never answered this. It simply told physicists to calculate and stop asking uncomfortable questions. Penrose proposed something radically different. He proposed that wave function collapse is not caused by observation at all. It is caused by gravity. Follow the logic. A quantum superposition is a state where a particle exists in two different locations simultaneously. But different spatial configurations of matter create different curvatures of spacetime. This is Einstein's general relativity. Mass bends space. A particle in superposition therefore corresponds to two simultaneous, different curvatures of spacetime. Two versions of the geometry of reality existing at the same time. Penrose argued that this situation is physically unstable. The universe cannot sustain two different geometries of spacetime for long. The more mass involved in the superposition, the faster the instability grows. When the difference reaches a critical threshold, at what Penrose called the Planck scale, the superposition spontaneously collapses. Not because anyone observed it, not because of environmental noise, because of a fundamental feature of quantum gravity woven into the fabric of spacetime itself. He called this objective reduction. Objective because it happens on its own, without any observer needed. It is a self-correcting feature of the universe. Now enter the microtubules. Hameroff proposed that tubulin dimers inside microtubules are capable of maintaining quantum superpositions. The protein structures, he argued, provide enough insulation from thermal noise to allow quantum coherence to persist long enough to be biologically relevant. And crucially, this quantum coherence is not random. It is orchestrated, regulated, shaped by the patterns of neural activity, by signals arriving from synapses, by the overall electrical state of the brain. Hence the name, Orchestrated Objective Reduction. When the quantum superposition in the microtubules reaches Penrose's gravitational threshold, when enough tubulin mass is in superposition to create an unstable spacetime geometry, it collapses. Objectively, due to quantum gravity. And in that moment of collapse, Hameroff and Penrose proposed, is a moment of conscious experience. Each moment of consciousness, in this theory, is a quantum gravitational event. A tiny, irreducible flash of something happening at the boundary between the quantum world and the geometry of space-time. Not a computation, not a cascade of neural signals. Something rooted in the deepest structure of the universe itself. Consciousness, in OR, is not something the brain produces. It is something the brain tunes into, like a radio receiving a signal that was always there. The scientific community's response was immediate and fierce. The objections came fast. The loudest was the warmth problem. Quantum coherence is unimaginably fragile. In cutting-edge quantum computers, engineers must cool their systems to fractions of a degree above absolute zero, colder than deep space, to prevent thermal vibrations from destroying quantum states. The inside of a brain is warm, wet, alive, and constantly in motion. The idea that quantum superpositions could survive in this environment long enough to do anything useful seemed, to most physicists, absurd. Decoherence times in warm biological systems had been calculated, and they were vanishingly small, femtoseconds, quadrillionths of a second, far too brief to influence neurons, which operate on the scale of milliseconds, 1,000,000 times longer. The theory was dismissed by many as beautiful but impossible. Elegant mathematics built on a biological fantasy. But Hameroff had an answer. And it came from the last place anyone expected. It came from plants. What a photosynthetic protein in a leaf cell revealed about the quantum nature of life, and why it forced the entire scientific establishment to reconsider everything they thought they knew about biology and quantum mechanics. That is the subject of the next episode. And trust me, what those plants are doing is going to change the way you think about what is possible inside your own brain. I will see you there.